welcome to 24 Lines Per Second, Guernsey's friendly neighbourhood movie podcast. This is episode 11. Insert web-based pun here. My name is Winter Tyson, and with me are Claire Mockett.
Hello.
And Russ Kellaway.
Hi.
In this episode, we will be reviewing The Amazing Spiderman, currently screening at the Mallard Cinema, and taking a look at whatever else we have been watching over the past couple of weeks. First up is The Amazing Spiderman, presumably a film about a Jewish magician. Wait, I think I've pronounced that wrong. It's The Amazing Spiderman.
This life is not an easy one. I've made enemies. Powerful enemies. I've put those I love in danger. But the one thing that has haunted me my entire life is finding the truth about my parents. You know, if you're gonna steal cars, don't dress like a car thief. You found my weakness. It's small knives.
Who are you? Tell us a little bit about yourself, Mr. Parker. What did your father do, Peter?
I never really knew my father. My parents left when I was very young.
Peter, someday you'll understand.
Did you tell the boy about his father?
Lottery letters. I'm Richard Parker's son.
If you want the truth about your parents, Peter, come and get it.
I gotta stop him.
Do you think what happened to you, Peter, was an accident? Do you have any idea what you really are?
It's already been 5 years since the third film in Sam Raimi's Spider-Man trilogy, so cash registers demanded a reboot. Originally conceived as a back-to-basics low-budget take on the tale of Boy Meets Radioactive Spider, Mark Webb's Spider-Man takes us back to the beginnings of the story before setting Spidey against the Lizard and the NYPD. So, Claire, does this film live up to its title?
Pause dramatically. Yeah, I say yeah with a bit of stuttering, because it has only been 5 years since Spider-Man 3, and the kind of like Marvel wanted to get the bad taste out of their mouth a little bit, so a reboot with Andrew Garfield as Peter Parker. He actually really did it, I think, really well for me, in my opinion. I thought he was more believable, he was more nerdy, but more natural with it. He wasn't overacting the nerdiness that I think Tobey Maguire did. I don't really want to compare the two films or the two takes on Spider-Man, but you kind of can't help it really, because there are two versions of interpretation, and for me Andrew Garfield did it a lot more than Tobey Maguire.
See, I quite missed Tobey Maguire's Peter Parker. My thing is that Andrew Garfield's Parker is kind of like a nerd as you might see in Skins, whereas Maguire was more of a sort of in-betweeners nerd, which I think is sort of more awkward and more realistic type of sort of fictional, awkward teenager. And to be honest, 21 Jump Street made fun of sort of how the cool kids are now the nerdy kids, or vice versa, or whatever. Yeah. And I just felt Andrew Garfield in this, you know what, he's like a genius. He's a really good-looking guy. He's a photographer, he's a skateboarder, and he occasionally stutters. I didn't quite get why he wasn't the most popular boy in school in this one. I mean, what do you think of this, Russ?
I really like the previous films, apart from 3, which is we don't talk about.
Yeah.
But my biggest problems with them were always Tobey Maguire and Kirsten Dunst.
Yes,
I don't
definitely.
like Tobey Maguire. He's got this strange, bug-eyed, childlike thing, and if that's what you like, then that's fine. But for me, he was always. I never found him convincing. I always found him a bit. I mean, stereotype's not the right word, but it's just a bit cartoonish, which is funny, but he just wasn't right for me. And my favourite thing about this new film is the casting. I think Andrew Garfield's amazing. Emma Stone is amazing. But she's good in everything that I've seen her in. She's just, and I think Claire hit the nail on the head when she said it natural, because that's what it was. And I thought that what's needed in this type of film is a kind of a real light-hearted approach to it, but you've also got to be able to handle those big dramatic moments, and I think that's exactly what they both hit with it, and that's why that was my favourite thing about it. It certainly, for me, it wasn't without its flaws. I didn't think it was amazing. I didn't think it was the best of the lot. I think Spider-Man 2 of the original is still a pretty amazing piece of work.
Yeah.
Kind of comic book wise. But no, I liked it. But yeah, mainly for those reasons, mainly for the casting.
Can I just add to that? Tobey Maguire for me works in films like The Ice Storm. In films where it's very subtle, he doesn't work for me as an action hero. And it's not because of the way he is as an actor. It's just his on-screen presence. He doesn't appeal to that type of genre for me. And obviously this is all opinion based. But Andrew Garfield, because we've seen him in a few more British orientated films, for him then to go into this American action film, he took that natural nerdiness with him, and it worked. I don't think he would work in any kind of other action type film, but for Spider-Man, I think this casting was pretty perfect for me.
Well, I like Andrew Garfield. I think he's a really good actor, but I've got to say what I do like about the sort of the Raimi films is that Peter Parker is a bit sort of a bit of a bug-eyed sort of uber nerd but in a very kind of like he's a bit, there's something a bit shifty about Tobey Maguire about his sort of screen presence, and I think that works quite well because you can see why he's a bit kind of lonely and outside of the main sort of thrust of school. I just with Andrew Garfield, I just didn't buy the fact that he was he was someone who the rest of the school didn't really have anything to do with. It seemed more of an affectation on his part than any kind of actual awkwardness.
Yeah, I think I took it because I don't think you can really call him a nerd in that sense, because I think a lot of the talk around this film has been that these days the nerds rule. These days nerd is almost cool. These days in terms of comic books and things like that, and I think they took his knowledge of science was a bit kind of a bit heightened for me.
It was a bit of a
he was very intelligent for someone who kind of seemed to be a bit of a and it was that kind of element that didn't work necessarily for me. But I think instead of him being someone that was mocked and laughed at in school and therefore was ostracised, I saw it with him as being much more kind of self-imposed. He was just a bit of a loner. He wasn't necessarily the geek who everyone beat up on and didn't speak to. He was just the guy who went under the radar, didn't really have a lot of friends and just kind of did what he wanted. And so I think they're almost two different representations of the same character.
Yeah, I just felt with the Maguire one, what that did was when he got the powers, there was a much more of a change. There was much more of a sort of an unleashing
with his body
of a
and
personality and such as well. And what do you think about sort of kind of like sort of bringing it back to the film as a whole? What do you think about the storyline? Because it just seems. I'm going to say right now, I thought the film was pretty good. I don't think it's a bad film, and I would recommend that people go to watch it. But do we really need to keep doing these origin stories? And I know it's setting up a new series, but we had about 45 minutes or so before Uncle Ben got shot. I think that's a safe spoiler.
I don't think that's a spoiler. I think you can go with that one. Oh yeah, I know what you mean. I didn't really I didn't feel that because I was enjoying it.
Right,
I enjoyed that part of the film, and like you said, I did like the film, and it's one of those films that I think I like the more I think about it. I wasn't sat there in the cinema thinking, "Wow, this is amazing. I'm really enjoying this." But then I came out and I thought, "Yeah, that was good." And then I'm thinking, "No, I did like that a bit more." And I was a bit split by the villain. I was a bit split by the lizard. I'm not quite sure how I felt about it. I loved a lot of the transformation stuff early on. It was quite gloopy and it was physical, and when his arm was growing, and I liked that. But the problem is inherent with the choice of villain. It's going to end up being very CGI heavy by the end of it. And his lair in the sewers was a bit strange. I'm not quite sure. Well, he managed to build that pretty quickly. But these are all really small minor quibbles in this kind of larger universe, isn't it?
With the villain, I didn't quite get what the problem was. He's got like half an arm missing. Yeah, was that it?
That was it, and he had a bit of a complex.
It just didn't seem that real. I hate using the word realistic because, of course, it's not. And these things, they're supposed to be sort of overblown and ridiculous, but within the film itself, because I think the film was trying to be a bit more of a. I mean, it wasn't trying to be like Nolan's Batman realistic, but it was. I think it was trying to be a bit more grounded in actually. Like he has
the
he
mechanical web
builds
slingers,
the web
yeah.
slingers rather than gets them rather than sort of morphs into them, as it were. But I just didn't find that really worked as a motivation. It's like the guy's got half an arm, and what I'm going to do, I'm going to stop you. Stop Norman Osborn's butler or whatever he was from doing this terrible testing. But so the way I'll do that is potentially kill a shed load of people. There were just moments like that just didn't. I felt internally within the film didn't quite work.
I think there was a huge amount of subtext that they didn't really show enough of, because obviously something happened with the scientist and the father.
Yeah, but then they forgot about. We had about 5 minutes of. Oh, I was hoping he was going to be called Ray Parker, because that would have been brilliant. But I'm so and so Parker's son.
Yeah.
And then he just never asked him about it again.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
I didn't actually stay for the credits, but there was a scene at the end of the
Oh, was
credits.
there?
There was where he was.
I saw people sat down. I should have
Yeah,
stayed.
Yeah, no,
exactly.
I stayed.
I only managed to catch up on YouTube, but there's a little bit hinted at in the
yes.
next one. There's going to be more talk about the parents and the fact that the lizard might be slightly complicit in what happened with his parents and so on.
Well,
so.
yeah, I kind of got that.
Yeah,
hint, but
yeah.
there was no.
Oh, there's no explanation.
I mean,
It
would
just-
you not be asking these questions
Constantly.
like straight away?
I mean, one thing you said that I kind of picked up on that I liked was that I was slightly worried that they were going to go all Batman with it, all Dark Knight with it, and take it into the real world and be dark and be gritty. And that's not going to work for Spider-Man ever. He's a much lighter, kind of almost comic kind of character, and that's needed. So I like that. And I think the elements that they did put it in worked. Like you said, with the whole mechanical web slingers and the police involvement as well was quite a nice angle.
I love Dennis Leary.
Yeah, he was great.
He was
really
brilliant.
good.
Always
And
brilliant.
a big surprise, as well. So I did like that. And and like I say, the moments with him and Emma Stone were really quite nice, and the whole kind of family thing there was a nice thing to have. I mean, I say it was solid for me. It was a solid entry, and if 5 years had been 20 years and those films had never happened, you'd probably be decrying it as amazing. But it does still feel a bit not fresh enough. That's the problem. To sit through the same story essentially, for the first 40 minutes, like you said. How many more times are we going to do that? Are we going to see Batman doing the same thing?
I mean, why not just... I mean, because we all know who these characters are, why not just start the film? Why not just have them in the film ready to go? Do we need to know about the origins to make the films enjoyable?
Yeah.
That's a really good point.
Do we have to go
That's a
through
good
that?
point.
I mean, what do you think?
I mean, obviously for a reboot, and if they want to change... Obviously, the father's going to be a massive plot point and story for the future films. I think it was necessary because they're changing it from what previously happened. If they piggyback on the existing films, it's going to have that continuation of that origins. So I did.
But that's it. I mean, you're then dragging this out for what, 2 or 3 films, maybe.
Well,
and what's annoying? What I find quite annoying at the moment is this idea that everything is now trilogy.
Yeah.
And that's fine, but give us a film, give us a full
Give us
story
a complete
each
story.
time.
Yeah, no, I know what you mean. I mean,
Yeah.
No, go on.
well, I know, because I know we're going to go on and talk about. I mean, we could even move on and talk about kind of where those superhero films are going to go, because it almost kind of leads into it. I think we all agreed it was quite a solid film.
Oh yeah,
but
Very much.
And sort of leading into that. I mean, one of my problems with the Amazing Spider-Man is that sort of Watchmen, Kick-Ass and the Avengers exist, and the thing is, Watchmen did the personal political stuff, did the nitty-gritty of superheroes so well. I think the film's much better than the comics. I know I quite like the comic of Watchmen, but the film's just on another level. I mean, Kick-Ass is fantastic. It's the best film about a teenager wanting to be a superhero. I know he's not quite, but whatever. And Avengers did the whole not really about anything, but just great big fun and action and all the set pieces stuff better than I think that's been done in quite a few years. So where does this stuff go now? Because I mean, we got Dark Knight coming out this summer, and I would go and watch, obviously, but I'm gonna want to hang myself when they announce that we're going to do another trilogy and it's all going to start again.
Because I believe they have announced. Warner Brothers have announced their intentions to reboot Batman when Christopher Nolan finishes. I mean, I think we have had a bit of a peak, in terms of the quality of these type of films. You can look at things. I mean, I know you're not an Iron Man fan, are you, Winter?
No.
But I think
we can say I think they're good films. They're just not.
I think you can look at Iron Man, things like The Dark Knight, and I think you can almost say that they kind of transcended the genre of what it used to be, and kind of tried to take it a bit further and make it a bit more interesting, and then it kind of exploded it in kind of its popularity. And I think they then enabled the influx of kind of smaller characters like Thor, and even like someone like Captain America, who, although is big in comic book terms, the general Joe public might not have much to do with either of those characters unless until recently, when the kind of the newer films came out. I think that kind of helped them step forward and take a piece of that kind of comic book superhero kind of pie. But I think almost with the Amazing Spider-Man, you're seeing the first of that new kind of cycle where they're going to be reinterpreted, and maybe one way of one thing about comics is there's always a different story arc to follow, or always someone's come in, like with Wolverine that's about to be made, which is being set in Japan, and it's kind of a samurai kind of take on it with what's his name, Hugh Jackman, obviously doing it again. And so there'll always be those kind of offshoots that you can go explore. I mean, I wonder whether it's going to be the same as kind of a James Bond thing, where each generation is going to have their own Batman, and it's a case of kind of whoever whether it was who you grew up with or whoever you saw first, or just maybe the best one that everyone thought was the best. But if they can do it with they're doing it with a singular character there, and I wonder whether the studios are thinking around that model where they can just take it and just kind of the problem with that is James Bond is quite rehashed, isn't it? Same, very similar plots, it's got certain beats.
Templated.
Yeah, exactly. And I wonder whether that would work with this type of story, but. I do wonder if we've hit the top and we're going to go kind of cyclical on it and see where it goes from there.
I mean,
you look worried.
I am worried because is it just going to be more? And I know that's how superhero stuff works. I know that's how comics work, and how genre works. It's more of the same by definition, but. Oh, really, like a Wolverine thing based in Japan with what's Hugh Jackman, like 82 or something? but you know what I mean? What new story is there? What new take on? Surely it's time to just lay this stuff out maybe after this year or so, because I'd quite like to see Zack Snyder's Superman. I'm quite excited about that.
Yeah,
but just stop this stuff for a minute or two. Leave it 20 years.
It's just the money that's coming in from these films.
Oh well, this is it. They're gonna...
and also it's like I know not to take away from film or anything, but where we are in society, where are all the heroes? Where are our hero politicians to help sort things out? Where are there's a lot of people wanting to look up to something, and I think these films are providing something that everyday society isn't, and I think it's that need to want to have that Captain America believe in America again and believe that everything's going to be all right because something's going to save us, even if it goes to the real dark places. It's the escapism and the will to want everything to be better, and these films probably provide a lot of that escapism for people.
I mean, yeah, and I think and you can kind of stay here and you can say that it's been 5 years since Spider-Man 3, but at the end of the day that means it's probably getting on for almost 10 years till the first one.
Yeah, definitely.
And so when you think about it, I don't know what you had Batman back in 1983 or 84 with Tim Burton or whatever it was, and then Returns was kind of him, and then you think the one after him, I think was Val Kilmer, wasn't it? Was he the one after?
Yeah.
George Clooney was after.
Clooney was after him. So and I think Val Kilmer was probably about 10 years after that. So
and Christian Bale.
Yeah, of course. So so you look at it, it does seem to run in that. I think the problem was obviously Batman went away for 10 years. The fact that we've had 1, 2, and 3 Spider-Man,
but came back completely different. Whereas is Amazing Spider-Man
it's not
different enough?
No, I agree to that point. It's not different enough. I thought the casting was Emma Stone, she was absolutely superb in it and believable. Whereas in a lot of these films, you get people like Tara Reid who puts on a pair of glasses and you're supposed to believe they're some kind of scientist.
But there was a bit of that, wasn't there? She was like randomly super intern.
But yeah, who knew all the passcodes to all the top secret devices? But at the same time, it's Emma Stone. She's a lot more believable than other people. Kirsten Dunst just looks moody all the time. So casting was great, but I do agree that the story just wasn't different enough. But how different can you make Spider-Man?
I think they'll keep doing it till one of two things happens. One, people stop watching it, or they actually need so it's got to be rubbish, and people don't go and see it, or it doesn't make any money, which is probably because it's rubbish. And like we said, we all went to watch it and enjoyed it on a certain level.
Perfectly enjoyable.
Yeah, and a lot of other people will. And so I suppose that's the problem. We can all kind of sit here and talk about how, oh God, can't you just wait for 10 years? But then they bring another one out next year and we go and see it.
Yeah, no,
Yeah.
definitely.
And I suppose that's the problem with it. But I don't know what to say. I've driven myself down a superhero cul-de-sac.
So, of course, when I went out to the cinema yesterday, all the Dark Knight posters are up. The big cardboard Batman stood there.
Have you put your name on it? Have you
looking
reserved
grim.
it?
Oh, no. Batman Dark Knight Rises is obviously out on the 19th or 20th, I believe.
Yep, next week, yeah.
Yes.
What do you think? Do you think it's going to be any good? I mean...
It's got to be, isn't it? I don't know. If anyone can do it, I have faith in Christopher Nolan that he can pull it off. I mean, it's a good 2.5 hours long. So he's put it all in terms of that. He hasn't scrimped on script, or I know the rough trajectory of kind of the characters in what might happen in terms of in terms of some plot points. And if they do, it will be really interesting. It will take that kind of film in a completely new direction than it's gone before. I think you know what you're gonna get, and you hope you get it. You know you're gonna get quite a serious, hard-hitting, action-orientated, superhero film that should have some great performances, and it should look great. And you can't really complain if you get that. Really, I don't think. I hope it'll be great. I think it will.
Yeah.
I think it will.
I'm just hoping it's more Batman Begins than Dark Knight.
But you're not a big fan of the Dark Knight, which is minority.
No, see, I quite like. I did quite like the Dark Knight. I just think it's far too long, and
You might be in trouble.
there are far too many times when they sit down and say, "Do you know what this film is about? Let's have a chat."
Yeah.
For the 10th time, and so on. I just felt that Batman Begins was about something more interesting. The whole film was about fear and overcoming fear, and it's throughout everything in the film. Whereas Dark Knight suddenly starts becoming this whole, the hero you need, and blah 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 blah, and you kind of think, you're just going around beating up criminals. I don't know. There's
So
something.
what do you think? What's going to happen with the next one with Dark Knight Rises? Are you kind of
I'm hoping
hopeful?
I'm hoping it finishes. I'm hoping it gives us a nice.
I think if
sort of trilogy.
I would
Joseph
put my
Gordon-Levitt's
hat
in it.
that it will. I think it
that's
will
gonna be
finish.
good. Tom Hardy is brilliant in everything he's in.
Well. No, I'll talk about that later. Okay.
I just hope. Okay. I just hope it doesn't become too serious.
Big for its own. Yeah.
Far too. I mean, Nolan's very, very. He's a very good filmmaker. There's no doubt about that. But I think there's too much. The Joker said, "Why so serious?" And I think he's got a good point. And they should have brought back the Joker.
No, you're wrong.
They should have brought. I was in the queue yesterday, and there were a couple of lads around us saying they're making a new Batman trilogy because Heath Ledger died. And it would be so, and they were both saying how disrespectful it would have been to bring back the Joker. I was like, no, you have to have the Joker. That's the whole point.
I don't think it's a matter of respect. I think Nolan is clever enough to know that if he tries to bring back the Joker in this film, then that overshadows everything else he's trying to do. It doesn't matter what happens. It doesn't matter who goes in playing that part. That's all that people are going to care about, and I think he doesn't want that. He doesn't want this last film to be about Heath Ledger that died and how good his performance was.
But it wouldn't, because it would be about Vincent Cassel in an ideal world.
Of course. I mean, if Vincent Cassel did it, that would be amazing. But yeah, I can see his reasoning for not doing that. Yeah, I don't know, Claire. What do you think?
Well, the marketing department's certainly been all over Facebook trying to put the 10 minutes previews and the first 10 minutes.
I've avoided. I just haven't.
I haven't seen
Why would
any
you?
of it because I want to go in there without being tainted of this is what you're going to expect. Here's the pace of the film and everything else. And so I'm really looking forward to it. Hopefully, going to see it as soon as it comes out, so I don't get all the Facebook remarks about everything. Because I think that I'm looking forward to it and hoping, as you said, that they finish it and just stop the story and hopefully kind of conclude everything from the previous two films.
I'm looking forward to him finishing it
Oh, definitely.
Because I'm looking forward to him making other films. You know,
More
Yeah.
Inception.
Oh,
This
yes.
guy that made
Yeah,
Inception
yeah, yeah.
and he made The Prestige and everything
Memento,
else that
yeah.
he's done is just
Brilliant.
he's yet to put a foot wrong. And so you hope that he comes off this nice and clean and pulls out another great idea to go and make something else, because he's one of the best at the moment.
It's just great storytelling, but with the visuals and I just get really excited about his films.
Okay, well, also in the last episode, Claire and I gave, I think, a resounding thumbs up to Abraham Lincoln
Yes,
Vampire Hunter.
yeah.
I think I probably enjoyed it a bit more. I just loved it.
I
The
did,
more I think
yeah.
about it, the more I like it. So,
Totally.
Russ, you've caught up with it now. Well, what's your take on it?
I enjoyed it. I mean, I went to see it last week. It was good. It took me a bit by surprise, if I'm honest with you, because it wasn't what I thought it was going to be. You know, because I mean, for anyone who hasn't seen it, I don't think I'm giving away too much. But Lincoln grows up in it, and he becomes an old man quite quickly, and that was very surprising. I mean, and like you guys said, it looked very good, and I enjoyed it that way. And do you know what? It's funny. I'm seeing quite a lot of films at the moment, and it's not a bad thing, but I have got a middling response to it, and I don't know if it's because because I always thought I was quite easy to please. I think it's since I've been doing this podcast, I've got some kind of strange, over-discerning demeanour about myself. But so I enjoyed it. I didn't love it. I didn't think it was amazing, but I think it was more of a case of I thought it was better than it should have been. If you know what I mean, I thought it really could have been shit awful. Could have been a terrible movie, and I think the things they got a lot more right than wrong. Like you said, it looked really good. The story was actually very interesting and quite good, and kind of kept moving along. It had a couple of amazing, brilliant looking sequences in it. And like you said, the reason I went to see it was because I know you guys said you should go and see it at the cinema, and so I sat at home thinking, oh, I'm going to miss it. It's going to go. Ended up going on the last day before we left the cinema, and like I said, I'm glad I saw it in the cinema, because I don't think it would have the have the same impact kind of at home. Dominic Cooper, like you said, was really good in it, and I thought he was great and playing quite a tough role to get right. I did enjoy it. I enjoyed it more than I had any right to. But it was okay. I'm not now gagging for Pride and Prejudice and zombies. I'm hoping they don't suddenly go and adapt all the rest of Seth Grahame-Smith stuff. That's who it is, isn't it? But it was good. Like I say, if you did miss it at the cinema, grab it on DVD, because it's still worth a watch. Friday night, couple of beers, it's worth a go.
And here is the part of the show when we discuss any other films that we've been watching over the last couple of weeks. I'll start off this time. I caught Sidney Guernsey's Screening of Elephant. I say I caught it, I introduced it, so full disclosure there. This is Gus Van Sant's Elephant, which is it's about the Columbine massacre. I mean, he sort of says it seems to veer between saying it is and it isn't about that. It's about something else, but it is, let's be honest. It's a very powerful film still. It's really nice watching it on a larger screen in all its 4:3 glory. What's interesting about it, I think, is that it doesn't try and pin down why these things really happened. I think it throws up a lot of red herrings about video games and Hitler and
suppressed sexuality.
Yeah, and all these bits and pieces. But I think what it seems to come down to is a misunderstanding of alienation, in that you're never quite sure if the boys want to be included in the first place, which I think says a lot about sort of our relationship with terrorism. And it's one of the really good 9/11 films. And we also watched Alan Clark's Elephant straight afterwards, which is essentially a series of numbing and repetitive killings in the streets of Ireland, which is a fantastic film. And you can see the Lincoln style definitely. It's a film about something else entirely. I think the elephant in the room there is that just across the sea, people are being shot. And a few nights before, I saw something on Newsnight about Republican action against drugs, and so the same people are using the same guns to shoot the same sorts of people they'd be shooting anyway. They've just found a new excuse. I've also recently rewatched Cronenberg's Videodrome. It's just an amazing film. It's brilliant. Cronenberg at his most Cronenbergian.
Yep, you can use
that. I suppose
that.
I can say. what struck me about rewatching it, first of all, I got the Criterion edition. The picture's fantastic, so if you really like it, pick up the Criterion one. Just the weirdness of it is so striking, and the great thing about Cronenberg's old films, stuff like Scanners and The Fly, is they're becoming more and more prescient, and they're becoming more and more urgent. The older they get, and the more individualised our media gets. If this all doesn't sound too pompous, and the special effects, Rob Bottin's sort of physical effects like pulsating TVs and
VHS stomachs.
Yes,
yeah,
VHS
all these
stomachs.
bits and pieces. I mean, they're odd in the way that the Alien is odd. So they're not gross out odd. They're not scary, but there's something very disturbing about them, and it's the stuff of nightmares. Finally, just quickly, I watched Ty West's film The Innkeepers. Ty West made House of the Devil, which was a really nice throwback to 80s horror. It looked like an 80s horror film. It was paced and edited like one. The Innkeepers is a really 90s film.
I saw the trailer for it a couple of weeks ago, actually.
It's really good. It's about a couple of people who are essentially, they're on duty at an inn over the last couple of nights of it being open, and they're sort of amateur ghost hunters, and it goes from there. But it's a really creepy film, but it's also quite a nice sort of old school haunted house story, which you don't really see anymore because it's not full of violence. And sort of going back to Videodrome, you see the Videodrome show, and all you can think of is Hostel and all that. That's essentially what they're showing there. But yeah, brilliant. I've been watching brilliant films all week. Not one bad. Oh, right. One thing I should mention is I've just discovered on Sky there's a channel called Sony Movies, and it's seemingly all those films that actors did that didn't quite get into theatres. So I've been watching a lot of stuff like Envy, starring Jack Black and Ben Stiller, and
Nice.
Suspect Zero with Aaron Eckhart and Ben Kingsley. Some of these films are actually surprisingly good, but I recommend you, if you've got Sky, check out Sony Movies, because some of it's just terrible, and they all star that bloke from that thing, the one from blah blah. Great! If you like cruddy movies, check them out. So, Claire, what have you been watching this week?
Well, I caught up with what did I catch up? American Reunion. Just to see what
I'm glad Pete's not
just
here.
to see what everyone was on about, and these kind of films. Every time I watch these types of films, it just makes me love Dazed and Confused even more, because it's like, to me, that is a film which has just so much content, but nothing happens, but loads happen. With American Reunion and American Pies, it's fun for a while, but the stereotyping in it is just too much.
It's borderline offensive.
It's offensive, and then you kind of watch, it's like, I'm watching it, I know I'm watching it, I should really go off and do something else. I'm going to go off and do something else.
Pete left Guernsey. That's how serious it was.
And he liked it.
So enough of American Reunion. Watched The Woman in Black. I got the Blu-ray. Daniel Radcliffe. He's. I'm really glad that he went off to do theatre as soon as Harry Potter finished, because it's kind of like him saying, "Okay, I want to take acting really seriously," and he's gone off and he's done a couple of other films that I think are coming out the end of this year. But The Woman in Black, it's a traditional ghost story, simple plot, but my goodness, the suspense build up in that film, I was quite terrified, not because of what was happening, but the way that they built it up. I haven't been the last time I felt like that was when I first watched Ghostbusters in the library scene. I think I tweeted that after I watched the film, but it just took me back to being a kid again, thinking, what the hell is going to happen?
I saw it in the cinema and wet my pants.
I was terrified.
Yeah.
I just watched that film through my hands, or over the pillow. What else have I watched? I think that's pretty much it. There's other films, but nothing really to speak of. I saw Running Man the other evening, which I'm sure you're going to speak about in a minute.
So Russ,
about that. Well, I'm going to save Arnold Schwarzenegger's 1987 classic Running Man. We're just going to get we're just going to get a little one out of the way first. I saw This Means War, which
Which one's This Means War?
This
Which
Means
one
War is Reese Witherspoon, Tom Hardy, and Chris Pine. Chris Pine and Tom Hardy playing CIA best buddies, spies who happen to fall for the same girl. What? Hilarity ensues. And you know what? I mean, I didn't have a problem sitting down to watch it. I like Tom Hardy. I like Reese Witherspoon. She's perfectly fine. Chris Pine, he's okay. He's kind of, I've only seen him in Star Trek really, but he's okay. And it's one of those films where it's good-looking people, hopefully having a laugh and entertaining you for 90 minutes. The main problem started about 30 seconds in when the credits were rolling, and I realised that it was directed by McG. And I didn't know this at the start. And I turned to my wife and I was like, oh, it's McG. And she was like, oh, it'll be fine. I don't know. I was like, you didn't see Terminator Salvation? Anyway, and then the next problem, and the irony being, everything I've really got wrong with the film is technical. It's because of him. That's my main problem with it. Everything, I've never seen a film that has been put through colour correction so hard in my entire life.
Really?
Like, the first couple of shots, I think maybe Tom Hardy opens his eyes, and even I fell in love with him because his eyes were so blue. It was like watching Avatar. His eyes were that blue. And then Chris Pine opens his eyes. They are also blue. Reese Witherspoon then opens her eyes. They're the most blue eyes you've ever seen in your life. And they've all got this really horrible golden bronze skin, and her hair is blonder than blonde, and it was just like it had been done by a kid with a box of crayons. Like, he'd just gone, make it red and make it green. It was so oversaturated, and like, normally you wouldn't really bother it, but it really bothered me. It really got to me that it was so artificial. I don't understand why he would want to make his film look like that.
Is it tan and teal?
I mean, that's what it's like. But it's really weird, and so that really bothered me. And I mean, apart from that, it was a perfectly okay piece of romantic comedy.
So what's it like as a story?
I mean, the story's pretty much it. It ended in a slightly different way, but the ending to me was almost a bit of a cop out. The end, and so it wasn't even particularly satisfying. And they're not particularly likeable people, which is always the problem. I think there's not enough meat on the bones. Like, basically what I said to you, 2 CIA buddies. Reese Witherspoon works as like a product tester for her own kind of company, but that's it. There's no kind of other story there. And Tom Hardy's obviously English, so lots of good comedy points there with him being English. The funniest bit is when Tom Hardy gets a paintball in the nuts. If I'm honest with you, that's the funniest bit of the film. That's the only really laugh out loud moment. And so, I imagine when it was in the cinema, it was probably a perfect date movie. It was probably a great movie to go out with on a first date or with your girlfriend to go and watch it. And it's fine. But I don't know, it was just a little bit pointless. And I did have higher than average hopes for it because
it's Tom Hardy.
Yeah, well, exactly. You said earlier Tom Hardy doesn't make bad films, but unfortunately, we've proven that wrong. And then, as if to wipe that away, like a wonderful Kleenex tissue of wonderfulness on television, I think it was on Sunday night. You sat down. What do you need to watch at 11:30 at night? The Running Man comes on, starring Arnold Schwarzenegger. One of his best. It's batshit ludicrous. It's absolutely mad. It's got brilliant one-liners in. It's violent. It's got unitards. It's got the thinnest social commentary ever. It thinks it's really clever, but it's actually really not. But yeah, I mean, I'm a big Arnold Schwarzenegger fan anyway. He's like my ultimate guilty pleasure. And then he turns up in The Running Man where he gets to, Sub-Zero and chainsaws and all that resistance and exploding collars before Battle Royale. I liked it. If I had the choice between The Running Man and This Means War, it's The Running Man every time. Unfortunately, the wife doesn't feel the same, so that's the problem. That's why you watch The Running Man till 1 a.m. and This Means War about 9 o'clock in the evening. I mean, Claire, you saw The Running Man.
Yeah, it's just a great 80s
exactly,
film. You
Winter.
can't really.
It's just great.
You just put it on and just watch it, and you think, yeah, the 80s.
I reckon you just think that. I reckon there's like a whole there's a whole dancing at the start of the Running Man show that goes on for about 2 minutes of just ladies in ridiculously skimpy leotards
with massive perms.
And it's not in the least bit sexy. But it's quite horrific. But that's part of it.
Sexy.
And so, The Running Man wins. It's very good. No Winter, you don't like The Running Man? Do you prefer Commando? Is that what it is?
No, I think The Running Man, I think there's like, Arnie's got sort of several layers.
He's got
to
layers.
him.
He's like an onion.
Like Arnie's action films. So sort of anything before like Kindergarten Cop or whatever. There's like 2 layers of them. There's the great and just the shockers, and Commando, Running Man.
They're all the great,
Raw
They're
Deal.
great ones.
They're
craptastic.
shockers.
Oh,
They're so crap that
I mean,
craptastic.
there's a certain enjoyment to be had, I suppose,
Yeah.
from moments of, you know, what's like Who Loves You and Who Do You Love, or like because the Running Man's it's just a load of sayings directed by the guy from Miami Vice, isn't it? And,
it is.
And there's like the bit where he signs on the bloke's back and
Stabs
him
in the
with
pen.
Oh, with
like,
the pen.
Because I remember
Yeah,
I first heard about the Running Man when I was at Vova, right? And someone in our class told about 10 of us, and we were all just like,
Gotta
this
watch
sounds
that.
like the best film in the world ever. And then it just kind of, it was for about a week. And then I think the problem with the Running Man is the climbing for dollars.
Oh yes, yes.
looks
Yeah.
like it would make a better film than the Running Man.
Yeah,
And I kind of like I do like this sort of junky sort of sci-fi stuff, but I think with Arnie, there's like, you know, you got to go your Terminators and your Predators, haven't you? If you want your Arnie flicks, go with Terminator or Predator, and then there's these other ones that. Oh, was it Raw Deal? He's playing like an undercover
Russian.
sheriff,
Yeah.
he's amazing.
and then sort of to me, Red Heat
Yep.
sits between the
Total
two.
Recall.
Sits between this. Well, Total Recall's in the classic layer.
That is a classic.
That's
It's
up
coming
there
out
with the Running Man and
Yeah,
Commando and-
yeah.
It's right up there. Total Recall's right up there.
When's the Colin Farrell one coming out? Is
Later
that
on this year,
this
I think.
year, isn't it? In a couple of weeks, I think.
Yeah.
Is it?
I don't really know what to say about that because I don't see why you tackle the one of his films that is that good. Like Total Recall is brilliant. It is very good. They just released it on Blu-ray. I think it's supposed to
I
look
love
amazing.
Total Recall.
And so for me, it's a really weird. And they always hide behind, we're not remaking Total Recall. We're readapting the Philip K. Dick story. And it's like, well, you're not. You're remaking Total Recall basically. And just because you've called it. Like they spelt it different, REKALL, and you're like,
brilliant.
"Oh, well done, no one knows." And so yeah, but once again, I'll probably watch it, you know, in a pathetic kind of way, but it won't be better than The Running Man.
But like you say, if I change the channel and the Running Man's on, I'll probably watch the rest of it.
Yeah. Yeah.
So thanks for listening, and don't forget to subscribe to our channel on YouTube and like us via the Guernsey Film Info page on Facebook. Join us again in a fortnight's time when we will be reviewing Steven Soderbergh's Magic Mike.
Oh.
I'm so intrigued by this film.
Everyone says it's brilliant.
I've
I
heard
haven't
some
seen a bad
very good
review.
reviews
I haven't seen a bad
about
review
this
of it.
film.
They're talking about Matthew McConaughey getting an Oscar nomination for it.
Really?
Yeah,
See, if there's a Matthew McConaughey film I want to see at the moment,
it's Killer Joe. Yeah, I know,
Yes.
but it's not out yet. He's in
But,
Magic Mike at the Mallard.
I'm curious about this, and it's got Storm Rider in it, which is
Storm
disconcerting
Rider,
in another way. But and of course, we'll also be reviewing The Dark Knight Rises, and we'll take a look at John Carter, which is out on DVD/Blu-ray.